everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for Relationship Talk. It's just us. We always like to start off with an oldie but goodie. Now, this is something you should be singing to your boo this evening. Friday night. It's TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. And I'm glad that you're with me today, with us today as we talk about it, right? As we talk about it. So relationship talk, just us. Anything you want to say to the people, Lady Sam?
Thank you so much for joining us on tonight for our relationship talk. It has been a long week. Thank God it's Friday. So come on, gather everybody and tell them we're on. It's relationship talk. It's time for us to have our rap session. Please like and share this video tonight. Like and share, like and share. Come on, message somebody real quick. Message somebody. Tell them Pastor Sam, Lady Sam is on Relationship Talk.
Relationship talk.
We're just going to give a little bit of time, see if a few more people come on, and then we'll get started. When you come on, just say hello so we'll know that you're on so we can acknowledge you. When you join, please just say hello. Hello, everybody. I see people coming in. Please just give us a hello. Thank you so much for joining Relationship Talk on tonight. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's Friday night. It's just us. Thank the Lord for keeping us all week long. Just going to give some people a few opportunity to get on.
All right. God is good and greatly to be praised. Hope your week has been blessed and highly favored. It's Friday, and we want to talk about relationships.
Yes.
We want to talk about the stuff that matter, right? We want to talk about how you keep it going, how you keep the flame lit. Come on.
Right.
How we going to do it in 2021? While there's so many options. Right? So many options. Who do we have on tonight? Let's see here. Who's in the number? Let's go. Got some good topics we want to talk about this evening. For those of y'all who remember last week was really good.
Yeah.
Last week was a very good we had some really good topics. It was very interesting. Hey, Tanaka, thank you for being on tonight, Sister Tanaka. Thank you repping South Carolina.
Yes.
South Carolina in the house.
Mm-hmm.
God bless you, Lady Chrisley. Thank you for being on this evening. Please shout out to Bishop Ellis. Amen. Who else we got on tonight? Oh, Lady Sam, thank you for being on tonight. Lady Sam, thank you for being on tonight. You know, let's talk about it. Let's talk about those things. I know last week we left off, and there was something that I wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I had something burning, a burning conversation.
So what is it?
I don't remember.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember what it is. You know, I haven't taken my Geritol this week, so I don't remember what it is, you know, but it'll come to me.
Mm-hmm.
It'll come to me. So where we going? Which direction we going? Lady Sam, you set it off this evening.
I set it off last week. So
Did you?
Yeah, you set it off this evening.
Said you.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
You set it off?
I sure did.
I came with the shotgun. You were shooting the BB last week.
Okay.
You go with the shotgun.
No.
And I'll go with the BB this week.
No, go ahead.
How about that?
No, go ahead. Get it started.
Well, listen, we're gonna go ahead and get it going, folks. You know, relationship talk. I got a burning question. You know, and my question to you today is, what do you do when, you know, wow, I really don't want to pose this question, but what do you do when you're in a relationship and you're with someone that doesn't light your fire? You're with someone that doesn't light your fire. You're with someone who doesn't flicker your flame. You know, who doesn't add gas to your tank. Come on, you know, what do you do when you're in that kind of situation? But the person is a good person. The person is a reliable person, a loyal person, a trustworthy person. Mm-hmm. But it's just not there. Should you remain in that situation? You know, not saying that you don't like the person, not saying that you don't love the person, because we can love many people. You know, some of us, we love our pastors. You know, we love our first ladies. We love our children. We love our co-workers, and all of the above. But is that love enough to sustain a relationship that doesn't add flame to your flicker? I want to hear from y'all this evening, you know, and then we're going to get to the nook and cranny of this, you know, because I believe every round goes higher
and higher, you
know. So let's see what we got going on. Y'all talk to me this evening, you know, talk to us this evening. We want to hear what say ye. Cool as a cucumber. You need some wind, Lady Sam?
Yeah, it's hot.
All right. She says she needs some air.
So anybody got anything to add to that? Anybody got any comments on that? So I guess everybody that's on today is good in that area, huh?
Mm-hmm. You're all right with that. You'll stay in that relationship. He's a provider. Or she's a provider. You know, she pay your car note every month. She puts you in some Gators. Or he buys her whatever she wants.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no flicker to that flame.
What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? So there's no comments on that. So you want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go on.
So I have a question. How can you tell what your spouse or your significant other is feeling without them even saying a word? Can you catch them? Can you catch
the vibe?
Yeah, can you catch them?
Can you catch the energy?
Yes.
Can you catch that energy and know what your spouse, your significant other is going through? Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. And can you resolve it? Not only can you knowing it, but doing something about it, I think, is another thing. I want to hear what the people got to say. I'm curious. I am curious.
Well, you know what? For me, I think, yes, sometimes you can, catch a vibe and feel, especially if you have time invested and you know that individual, you can feel what they're feeling. And for me, I don't think it's always a instance or situation where I can solve what the issue is or what the problem might be, but I might go to see how can I help, or is there anything I can do to assist. Sometimes we just have to let the other individual just go through whatever it is that they're going through, because that's something that they may have to go through personally. So sometimes we can't always be the one to fix it. But yes, I do believe that sometimes, if you are invested in that relationship, you would be able to feel the other person's vibes if there is something going on. And sometimes, yes. Sometimes you may not, but sometimes I do believe that you can.
I believe so. Bless the elder caller. Thank you for being in our part of our relationship talk this evening. I believe a person can pick up on the vibe, or the energy from the person. And sometimes people may be more introvert. They may not be a talkative person, or a person who's going to really talk about how they feel, especially when you're dealing with men.
Yeah.
They're more, most men keep to themselves when they're dealing with issues. Mm-hmm. But I think another thing is when you're dealing with problems, I think not only we should, in a relationship, we should always try to figure out how can we bring resolution. Mm-hmm. I think, when you look at think tanks and you look at those who are brought into the business world, the reason why they are operating on the highest level of business and so on and so forth, because they bring resolution, they bring answers to problems.
Right.
And I think that with experience and with time within that relationship, you should be able to at some point be able to bring resolution or answers to that situation. Mm-hmm. To that situation. And I believe that sometimes God will give it to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we bring a lot of things to God, but when it comes to our relationships and our intimacy with our significant others, some of those things we don't go to God for. And I think sometimes we think that God is not concerned about that.
Yeah.
Or he just deals with holiness. Mm-hmm. He just deals with, sons and daughters on a certain level.
A spiritual part.
Right. And so, but I believe that God operates in all areas, and I believe that not only he'll give you answers, but he'll tell you how to navigate through that rough terrain. Mm-hmm. Until you get to different ground.
Right.
Sometimes in a relationship, it might be kind of rough, and you just got to be able to navigate it and don't turn over any rocks. Mm-hmm. You can walk through, just don't turn over any rocks. Mm-hmm. Because maybe it might be a landmine. And if anybody here has ever been in a relationship that's sort of like a landmine. You know that I can't turn things over.
Right.
You know, it could be bad. You know, I'm just going to get through this. Mm-hmm. We'll get through this. And then we could turn around and say, that was a rough patch.
Right.
You know, that was a rough season. That was a rough time in our lives. But this is how we made it. And we could look back and say, all right, anytime we face this, because relationships are just like seasons.
That's true.
There are things that are coming around again. They may not be exactly the same. You know, they may differ a little bit. But we'll find out a lot of the resolutions and a lot of answers to some of our relationships are some of the same things that we dealt with before. You know.
And if God was able to bring you through it back then, he's able to bring you back through it again. So it's important that, like Pastor Sam said, it is important that we seek God about our relationships too. We should be seeking God about every area of our life. Anything that concerns us, that's what we need to be seeking our Father about. Because he's concerned about everything that goes on with us. And so we should be able to go to him and talk to him about everything. Even like with our natural kids, I always tell them, you know, don't be afraid to come and talk to me about anything. I don't care what it is, you know, come and talk to me. And that's just how God, our Father, wants us to do with him. He wants us to be able to come and talk to him about it so he can give us instruction on how to make it through and how to get over that or how to come through that.
That's right. That's right.
Anybody? Please like and share this video. Please like and share this live on tonight. Like and share. Like and share. Any questions, Pastor Sam, that you have?
Yeah, I'm pulling them up right now. I'm on my phone, so just give me a minute. I got a lot of stuff on here. But you can go on to your next one.
So I have another one. Do you or your spouse ever admit that you are wrong? And even if you're not wrong, or do you apologize and, you know, for something, knowing that you're not wrong, in order to, you know, tone the situation down a bit? Or B, to that question, do you or your spouse ever admit that you're wrong? And if they don't ever admit that they're wrong, how does that make you feel? Hey, Sister Gloria, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining our live on tonight. We miss you. Good to see you. Pray that all is well with you and your family. Anybody want to answer that? Anybody want to chime in on that? Have you ever just apologized just to tone things down, to take the fire, they take the fire out, you know, to put the fire out? Have you admitted that you were wrong, knowing that you were not wrong, but just to calm things down and move on from that? Because sometimes things can drag on too long for nothing. Sometimes things can be a snowball effect. They become huge for something so little. So have you ever apologized to your spouse, your significant other, for something that you know that you weren't wrong, but you just apologized to calm it down? And the B to that question was, have you or your spouse ever, you know, they don't apologize or never admit that they're wrong. They always feel that they're right. And how does that make you feel? Anybody?
That's something else, you know. What do? When you take the high road, you know, you take the high road, even though you know that I wasn't wrong. You know, I wasn't wrong. I think that's a way to resolution. I think everyone at some point, no matter whether if it's relationship or other things, you know, friendships or whatever it is, because you see the value in the relationship. You see the value in the friendship. You see the value in those things. And because you do, you're willing and willing to say, you know what, I'm going to take the high road on this. You know, I'm going to take the short end of the stick, you know, because I see the value in it. And it's not that deep. Right. You know, it's not that much that I can't say, you know, whatever. You know, I'll take an L. You know, I'll take the L. You know, I'll take one for the team, you know, because I understand that there is something greater that will come out of this. in the long run. So Sister Gloria says this: I've always admitted I was wrong. She always admitted that she was wrong. I've asked if we can agree to disagree. Can we agree to disagree?
Right.
And I think that's the key thing. Admitting, if you're wrong, just say it. There are a lot of things that are prolonged longer than they need to be because one person who knows they're wrong is not willing to admit that they're wrong. And so there's never any, even though we kind of smooth things over, like, all right, forget it, well, let's move on. We still gonna be friends. We still gonna be this, we still gonna be that. But, it's almost like there's a ditch that is dug that you never filled back up. And sometimes that same hole that is dug, if you don't fill it, you're gonna fall back in it again. And so sometimes we have to admit or take the low road. As you said, agree to disagree. Sometimes, I agree so we can move on, or disagree so we can just, we have to cut the ties. We have to cut it short so that it doesn't become something that it doesn't need to be.
But what do you do, Pastor Sam, when the other person never admits their wrongs? They always can see your wrongs, but they never admit their wrongs. So what do you do?
Well, I think in a situation like that, I think you have to look at the totality of the situation. Sometimes we look at what we see right in front of us. We just see the situation that has developed in front of us.
Right.
But I think sometimes we have to step back and look through a wide angle lens. We're very short-sighted. We're very, very poignant. We look at things just in front of us. And I think some of the issues that we deal with, even though we're dealing with this one little thing right here, but it got to this because of that. And so we have to look back and step back and say, all right, let me look at everything. He or she may be wrong about that, right? But let's look at the whole thing. What did it take to get to here? What was all the things that happened, weeks and months and years that can get to that one point?
Right.
And I think looking at it from a whole perspective, not blaming, right, not pointing fingers, but looking at as the individual saying to oneself, myself, yourself, herself, himself, saying, all right, what could I have done better? What could I have done that might have made a difference? And I think that's very key. Sometimes what we see in a relationship is an action that is from a reaction that is from an action, and we're just looking at the reaction, but we don't look at everything that happened prior to. And I think that's key with a relationship, and I believe God is the type of God that will show you if you want to see.
Right. But so when you see, do you go back to the other person and tell them, you know what, I was wrong? I have to admit, when God shows you,
yeah,
or if you humble yourself enough to allow God to show you, do you go back to the individual and tell the person that?
I think it's up to the individual.
But don't you think that's something that they should do?
I would agree. That's something that they should do.
Right.
But not everyone's going to do that.
Right.
But I think one thing that is important is it's not so much of a person admitting, because to another person that makes them feel good. Oh, I was right. No, but let me finish. I was right. But I think irregardless if the person ever owns up, but if you see a change, if you see a concerted effort towards doing something different, I think that in itself is greater than it outweighs whether or not the person comes and admits it. Sometimes not everyone is going to admit it.
Right.
But not only that, sometimes a person doesn't admit it because they don't quite see it.
Right.
They may make a change, but they didn't see the error.
Right.
And so, I heard, the husband and wife or the boyfriend or girlfriend, they're going at it. And he says, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the change. Even though I didn't see where I was wrong at. So you may not get an admittance, but you may get a change.
That's good. That's good.
What the people say.
So Miss Gloria says, I always say go back to what made you fall in love in the first place. Is this important enough to throw the relationship away? Wow.
I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. But I think everyone values their relationship on different levels.
That's true.
So what me and her, what we value the relationship another person may have another value. They might value their relationship totally different. It may take only one strike and it's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got some other people like, listen, you know what? That's not serious. He's already or she's already on 10 strikes, but that's still not enough.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And I think everyone
and relationships are like that.
Right.
It takes work.
I mean, look, if we don't operate in our relationships with grace,
right.
Imagine where we would be right now if God didn't give us the grace that He has given us.
That's right.
We would have been done, washed up, kaput, fooey.
Right.
That would have been over for us. It would have been a wrap for us. And sometimes in a relationship, we have to extend that same grace.
That's true.
Can a relationship get to a place where the partner never gets it? Yes. Can they get to a part of a relationship where they're never capable of getting it? Yes. And that's fine. In a relationship, it's about one person saying, okay, all right, you don't see it. Evidently, you just don't see it. It's just like some people are good in English and good in math. It don't matter how much you get a tutor. You're still not going to be good in math because that's not where you're good at.
Right.
So in a relationship, you got to understand that sometimes some parts of the relationship it may not never hit 100. But will 90 do? Right. Will 88 do? They may be hitting 40 on this end, but they may be hitting 90 on something else.
That's right.
And so that's where the balance comes in the relationship.
And I agree with that because the other partner of that relationship, whatever that one person is probably a little bit weak in, you may be a little bit stronger in that area. So you come together so that there's a balance there.
Right.
What I'm weak in, he's strong in, and we work together for the same common goal. So I agree with that.
Yeah. So what else we got here? Any other? Well, we're going to go on to our next question. In a relationship, if you start to see some of the things in a relationship, we all have, when we look at a relationship, we all have breakups, right? When I say breaks up, I'm not talking about you pack your bags, you hit the road and go sleep in the car. Every relationship has its minor breakups, right? We fuss today. Guess what? I'm sleeping on my side of the bed. You're sleeping on your side of the bed. I'm going to cook bacon. I ain't going to cook you no bacon. We have breakups, right? We have breakups. We have minor breakups in a relationship, if the truth be told. And when my phone went dead. So when it comes to these kind of breakups, one of the questions I want to ask the people is, do you go back and make that thing, well, similar to your question, make that thing right? You know, now, this question is for my single people, right? This question is for my single people. Married people, we're going to get it together. But for my single people, and we got some single people that are on here tonight, you know.
Sorry.
This is for my single people. If you see that there was something that...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If we see that there's something that has broke up the relationship has severed, it has broke up, you went your way, I went my way, and then years down the line, I look at the relationship, because some of us, you know, we look at our relationships just like we look at our jobs, you know, and if you ever get to a place when you realize and say, you know what, I really did mess up. I really did. Do I go back to that person that I was once in a relationship with and try to make amends? Have you ever gone back to that relationship and try to get it back together and get the thing going back on track after you realize that, you know, I really did mess up? I want to hear from your people today. I need to plug my phone up. What say ye?
You said that was for the single people, right?
Yeah, our single people. Because I think what happens is, as single people, we break up, we leave relationships that we never really, you know, that you leave relationships and that person never really wanted to leave that relationship. You know, never really wanted to leave that relationship. And so as a result, you know, you find out that, I did mess up.
Right. You realize later on down the line that, yeah, it was me. I did mess up.
You know, I messed that thing up. So do you go back and try to recapture that thing?
Or rekindle
that relationship? Should you go back and rekindle that relationship? Or should you just say, you know what? Let me just chalk it up and just keep it moving. I want to hear from you. You know, have you ever looked at that relationship and said, you know what? Oh, man, I messed up. Let me go back. Now, let me go ahead and catch him before somebody else catch him. You know, or her. You know, that situation. I want to hear what you people say. You know, what are you guys saying? You know.
Thank you, Elder Angelia Copeland, for joining us on tonight on Relationship Talk. Good to see you. Pray that you and your family are doing well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Relationships. How do we get them together? How we make them work? You know. Have you ever, you know, watched a TV show, you know, and you're watching the TV show and you're watching the breakup develop while you're watching the show, and as you're watching it, you're saying you're rooting for that person, like, oh man, dude, you need to go back.
Yeah.
You know, or you're telling her, you know, you're talking while the movie is playing, and you're saying, no, she need to go back and get that right. Yeah. Have you ever been in that situation? You know, when you say, you know what, I messed up. What do you hear from the people tonight?
I have another question if you want to go ahead and move on.
Yeah. Well, you know, relationships is tough. Relationships are not easy. You know, relationships are not easy. But, you know, but sometimes we have to be willing to chalk it up, because there could be something there. You know, that could be your soulmate. Right. That could be your all in all, you know. And so
that sound like a Hallmark movie question.
Yeah. Now, and sometimes we got to be willing to think about that. Right. You know, should I let this relationship walk out of my life? You know, should I let this person walk out of my life, or should I just take the road and the lesson that I've learned, that revelation,
Mm-hmm.
and use it to get back where I need to be? You know.
So Brother Lamont Green says, although I'm not a single person, I have went back and tried to amend past beefs I had with my exes. I still don't want you. I just want to make sure that we cool.
You know, that's a good thing.
That is.
That's a good thing,
Brother.
Brother.
No baggage.
Yeah. You know, I think you hit on something right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even though we're not going back to be booed up,
right?
But at least I think that we should be able to communicate on some type of level. The friendship should be able to last. You know what I'm saying? The friendship. Now, you got some friendships that can become toxic. You know, when you go back and you make those amends, you know, and then they want to be haters, you know.
And not necessarily does there, you know, you doing it to you know, keep the, you know, the friendship. Sometimes it's more so for you. You know what I mean? It's more so for you, so that, you know, in your next relationship, you can go ahead and move on and be free and be like, you know what? I did what I was supposed to do. I was the bigger person. I went back. Conscience. Right. Yeah. You know, you don't carry anything with you when you go into, you know, your next relationship or whatever. So sometimes you do have to be the bigger person, and, you know, go back and just talk to that person like, look, I was wrong. You know, I just want to make sure that you're good. You know, like Brother Lamont said. So that was good, because sometimes you have to be the bigger person. Right.
You have to be the bigger person and say, you know what? This is for the better. Mm-hmm. Not only is better for the relationship, but it's good for me.
Right.
You know, it's good for me, because I think every relationship, no matter how it turns out, you want to make sure that you are not leaving the relationship frayed.
Right.
You want to make sure that you're leaving the relationship as whole as possible.
That's right.
You know, because that gives you a good place to start off from. Mm-hmm. You know,
good starting.
You know, if you ever been in a breakup, you know, and you go back into another relationship without any resolve from that thing happening before, it could be problematic. It could be problematic. Hold on one second. All right, so it could be problematic, you know. So and so we try to make sure that resolution is always in play. Mm-hmm. You know, in play. You know, and I think after a breakup, you really got to give yourself time to breathe,
to heal. Yes.
You know, you really got to get yourself. You know, sometimes we get into the same crazy relationships. You know, because we keep seeking the same things.
Right.
You know, we got to be willing to say, you know what, let me you know, do something else. Mm-hmm. You know, a friend of ours years ago said something that I still share today. Said water seeks its own level. Mm-hmm. And so some of the people and some of the reflections, some of the relationships that we're in is a reflection of ourselves.
Right.
You know, and so if you don't like the relationship or you don't like the person, that person sometimes is a reflection of who we are.
Right.
It's a reflection of who we are. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that lens, or that makes a person say to themselves, well, you know what, if I didn't like that person and the way they operate and move and stuff, you know, maybe we need to do an introspection and look at ourselves and say, what is it about me that attracts that?
Right. That's true.
You know, what is it about me that attracts that? Mm-hmm. You know, and sometimes, unbeknownst to ourselves, sometimes we don't realize, but we're walking around with cue cards on our backs. saying, this is what I want,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't take long for a person to read you.
Mm-hmm. You're like a magnet.
And be drawn to you.
Right.
And so certain elements are drawn to certain people because that's what they are attracting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on.
So Elder Carla says, I had someone who wanted to come back, but when I'm done, I'm done. And that's good. That might be, what it takes for you. Some people can be done and be clear and be
Right.
free, but then some people, they're not quite done. And so they have to do whatever they need to do so that they can be done. So some people, can be done and be like, that's it, I'm done. It's no going back, it's no turning back.
Right.
And so, I understand that.
Certain things, certain relationships, you just can't go back to.
You can't. That's right.
It might have been toxic,
Especially
or it may
if it's
not,
toxic, right?
or it just wasn't a viable relationship.
Healthy.
Some relationships, it just ain't gonna work.
Mhm.
It's just we just sitting around here kicking rocks.
Right.
And but then there's always that relationship that you can look at and say, I see something in this.
Mm-hmm.
I see something in this relationship. I see something in this person. And guess what? There's something about that person that makes me say, all right, I need to go back and look at this again.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to the car lot, you see the car that you like, man, I could see me in this car right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you leave the lot. But after you leave the lot, the car's still on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then you won't have peace until you go back there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could see myself in that.
Right.
And so relationships are like that. Sometimes you got to go back and be like, I can see myself. There's too much here for me to throw away. And sometimes we throw away relationships because of our own egos,
Mm-hmm.
because of our own placement, our own place. Sometimes we don't want to give room for another.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Sometimes we don't want to give room for another.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to make space for another person to be able to live in your space.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we like that. This is mine,
Mm-hmm.
all mine, nothing but mine. And that's yours. And I think sometimes it comes to a point in a relationship, when does it become yours or his and hers and ours?
Right. Mm-hmm. And sometimes too, it takes that time that you may have had away from that person gives you time to grow and also gives the other person time to grow. And then sometimes when you come back together, that song said the second
time around is going to be better than the first time.
And that's because you had the opportunity to grow in certain areas, and then you can come back together and work on that thing, and things will look totally different.
Right.
It looked one way, before, but now this way, the picture is just painted totally different. The other picture, it was missing this, and it was missing, the colors weren't right. It wasn't coming together for that, beautiful portrait. But then when you come back together, later on, all the colors match. So, but you have to, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it is going to be instances where you have to.
Bless you, Brother Dave. Thank you for being on this evening.
Well, you're going to have to, you might end that relationship, but you may have to come back and revisit it. You never know.
Yeah. I think when it comes to relationship, I think we have to understand what role do we play, in the relationship. And I'm not talking about the caveman mentality,
I'm Jane, you Tarzan.
Yeah, I'm Jane, you Tarzan. I'm Tarzan, you Jane,
right.
Or whatever. I'm not talking from that perspective. I'm talking from a perspective where you really take an inspection of the relationship and say, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I don't need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I don't need to do. And everyone will realize that this is the part that they play in the relationship.
Right.
And there are certain places that you don't go.
Right.
There are certain places that you don't go. And I think if everyone starts to realize, or whoever starts to realize what part they play in the relationship, then that relationship can go on to be viable. Bless you, brother Dave. Dave says this: separation can be good if each individual does their own work to be healthy in the relationship. Mm-hmm. That's true. Right. You know, we have to do as individuals what it takes for us to stay healthy in the relationship.
Right.
You know, healthy. You know, and healthy, I'm not talking about just working out. I'm talking about mental health. Mm-hmm. You know,
physical health.
Your physical health. You know, you can't. You know,
everything.
Every aspect. Mm-hmm. You know, make sure that you know. No, I can't say that. But you know, all aspects has to be healthy.
Right.
You know, in order for that relationship to be able to work.
Mm-hmm. And disclaimer, so let you know, some people who have just joined, so we're not talking about married people separating. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, in this particular point, the question was posed to the single people. What if, you know, what do you think about if you were in a relationship and the relationship, you know, you were separated, should you come back? Or if you still feel that there's some unfinished business, should you go back to that person? So we're not talking about the married couples. We're talking about single people that are in relationships. So that's what that question.
Well, you know what? I want to go there this season. I mean, you know, what about, you know? Listen, I think if we're going to talk about relationship, we got to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Mm-hmm. You know, there are some relationships that don't work out, that do end up in divorce, mm-hmm. that do end up in separation, mm-hmm. and all those type of things. And it's not about, you know, I think what it is about is, you know, and Dave really hinted to that. What has made the relationship unhealthy? Mm-hmm. You know, and in order for it to work, it has to be healthy.
Right.
That means everyone has to be feeding what it needs, you know, for it to maintain. Mm-hmm. You know, and so, you know, there are people here who are single, who have been in marriages, who have divorced, mm-hmm. who have separated, you know, but at the same time, you know, after a while, you got to get back on the horse. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to ride the bike. You know, you got to ride the bike. Mm-hmm. You got to get back on the bike. You got to get back into the game. And sometimes it's hard to get back into the game, especially if when you left it and you weren't whole, mm-hmm. and you left it and you were afraid, and you were, you know, afraid. And what it does is it causes a person to be afraid, mm-hmm. of getting back into another relationship.
That's right.
You know, true. It makes a person afraid to go back into a relationship. And so, you know, and I think one of the things that's very important is, well, how do I get back into that? You know, how do I get back into that relationship? How do I scale back the way I feel or my outlook on relationships? Because in order for a relationship to even happen, you have to change your perspective on relationships. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's very key. The relationship has to be healthy, but the person has to be healthy also.
Right.
You know, and sometimes I told my wife this some time ago, and I think it's very important to say that part of your healing is just you talking about it. Mm-hmm. You know, just releasing it.
Right.
Just getting it off of you. Mm-hmm. You know,
that's
your
true.
Healing and your deliverance can happen that way.
That's right.
You know, so sometimes we deal with stuff on the inside, mm-hmm. but we feel it's an embarrassment or it's, you know, shameful, yeah. or whatever it is. And we never talk about some of those things, mm-hmm. you know, and then what happens is year after year, we remain in one place, mm-hmm. you know, but talking about it, getting that confidant, mm-hmm. that person, you know, ain't nothing wrong with going to therapy, mm-hmm. you know, ain't nothing wrong with going to see somebody, a counselor or whatever it is, you know, talking to the Lord, however you do it, you know,
but because as long as you do it,
you know, because God will talk to you on your knees, or he'll talk to you sitting on the couch instead at the therapist. You know, however he's going to do it. But one thing that he does want you to be whole again. He wants you to be put back together. You know, and talking is a good way to release.
Right.
All right.
So Brother Dave says, I was being general. Taking a step back to analyze is always a good thing.
It's fact.
If the intentions are right. That's true.
That's right. Taking a step back, looking at it.
Looking at the whole picture.
At the whole picture.
Yeah.
Get the wide angle lens. You know, looking at it, be like, all right, you know what? Yeah, I messed up right there. But you know what? She messed up right there too. Matter of fact, we both messed up. So it's equal.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's equal, you know. And so when we look at those type of things, we be like, all right, I shouldn't have done that. You know, I ain't got no business coming in the house at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, she ain't got no business, you know, coming in the house 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, I remember my pastor years ago said, ain't nothing open at 3 o'clock in the morning except, and I'm not going to go there tonight. Well, I'm not going to go there tonight. You know, there's only certain things open at 3 o'clock in the morning. But, you know, we going to keep it between the tracks. We're going to keep it on the tracks tonight. We're going to keep it on the tracks. We got to make sure that thing is healthy. Dave. Bless you, brother.
But that's what he used to say. So that's it.
Right. You know, I try to pull it back in. But that's it, man. You know, that's it. You know, so, you know, I think a relationship is built on respect. You know, respect and honoring that person.
That's right.
You know, respect and honoring that person. And I tell you another thing I think that's very key, you know, is you have to have humor and laughter and good times. You got to have that kind of energy in a relationship. A relationship can't always be about business, you know, because, you know, a relationship like that to me is to me, you know, everyone else has their own opinion, but a relationship like that is dry and it's corny. You know, who wants to be in a relationship that's corny? You know, who wants to be in a relationship that doesn't have any energy?
Right.
You know, nobody wants to be in that relationship. I think a relationship should be a relationship that we're always having a good time. You know, you at work, I pick up the phone, I call you, you know, and
crazy stuff.
and say some off the cuff. You know, that's the thing that makes a relationship.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing that keeps the fire lit. And that is a must. You know, you got to crank it up, folks. We got to crank it up. I love the Lord. I do. You know, but, you know, anyway, so, you know, but I believe that I know what makes my relationship work. You know, I know what makes my thing work. And I think every individual, you have to figure out what makes it work. Right. You know, if that works, hold on to it. You might try something else, like, nah, I can't do that one. All right, let's try something else. Right.
You know, and the funny thing, the reason why I was laughing when he was talking about that was because that's exactly what he does. I mean, all day, just crazy, all day. He sends, you know, text messages. He sends like little emojis. And I mean, I just stay cracking up. I mean, he keeps me laughing, but that's good. Because sometimes in a relationship, you'll have one person that's more serious and then the other person is more comical. But it brings balance, you know. And so I'm the serious one and he's the crazy. He off. Y'all hear me? He off. But
way off.
But it keeps me laughing, and that's good for me. That's healthy for me. So you know, I really, you know, when he was talking about it, I had to laugh because I'm just thinking back at some of the things that he does. But that is what makes our relationship work. You know, and sometimes you have to do that. It's okay to send like little love notes, you know, in a text message during the day. You know, that should be something that starts from the time that you wake up and you guys leave and go to work to the time you come back together. That's something that should be happening all the time. You got to keep that fire lit.
Right. You got to keep that fire lit. Let's see what Dave said. All right. I got to read this one with caution. Let's see what Dave wrote. Dave says, with the way our current media is set up, pretty much reducing marriage to a business transaction, how does a prospective couple looking at marriage avoid falling into that trap? So if you're already covered.
No, he said sorry if you already covered that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, we haven't. No, I haven't covered that. But that's true. Let me read it again for the people. Listen, a little bit slower. So with the way our current media is set up, pretty much reducing marriage to a business transaction, how does a prospective couple looking at marriage avoid falling into that trap? You know, I think it's very important that we are very careful of what we emulate. You know, and when Dave was talking about that, bless you, Pastor Brian, thank you for being on. Look at this. When we look at that, you know, we think of like the Kardashians and the Kanyes and you know, all these business marriages. You know, we're together because it makes sense financially. We're together because we're able to catapult our careers to a certain place.
Or we're together because of the image.
Right.
You know.
And I think that right there is a marriage built on false pretenses. If you want the marriage to last or to really turn out to be something, you know, it can't be on these false faulty ground. You know, I think it's very important that we, you know, as individuals, really look at why we're doing what we're doing. You know, because if it's about the fact that, you know, he could put you in a car, you know, and you could drive the finest things, right? That may be cool. You know, you might be like, yeah, I don't mind no problem saying, I don't have no problem saying I miss so-and-so because look at what he put me in, you know, and that's all well and good. But how about the other 7 women that he got? You know, what, you know, you see what happens when it comes to business marriages, marriages that are built on this faulty ground, you know.
I think that, you know, in a case like that, I think that prospective marriages, especially for younger couples that are going into their lives together, that it has to be built on foundation. And I believe, of course, you know, God is the foundation, but you have to build it on love from the beginning. The things that you started doing when you were dating, the things that you were doing when you were, you know, spending time with this person or whatever, those are the things that you're going to have to remain doing. So if you were a gentleman who always brought her flowers and stuff like that, then guess what? Throughout that relationship and when you guys get married, you got to keep buying those flowers. If you were the...
Can I interject there?
No.
I disagree.
Wait.
I disagree.
No. So you don't think that you should continue to still do the same things that?
No, I think that if you were buying flowers, maybe you could buy ice cream.
No.
Or maybe no. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying what I'm saying is this. I want you guys to catch me, and you could get back to your thought. What I'm saying is that sometimes in a relationship, you got to change things up.
You do.
One thing all the time becomes tiring, right? And you might bring, you know, I could bring you flowers for the next 10 years, right? But after a while, you're going to get used to the flowers.
Right.
You're going to be like, you know what? Thank you, baby. I love the flowers. But in your mind, you say, you know what? I want something else besides flowers.
Well, no, I totally agree with you. But what I'm saying is that you have to continue to do things to keep it spicy.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have to keep that, you know, I just use flowers because I like flowers.
Right.
So I just use flowers. But what I'm saying is that you have to continue to do things to keep that fire lit. You can't stop doing it and everybody's so busy, you working, I'm working, and all we worrying about is making this money and that's it. No, because guess what? What happens when the time comes when that money might not be there? Then what do you have?
Right.
Right. And so, you know, the thing is, what I'm saying is that you have to continue to do things to keep it spicy. If you were doing things in the beginning, then I believe that you continue doing certain things throughout the relationship. And yes, I do believe that you should change it up. I do agree with that. Because that's good. That's a good thing, to change it up every once in a while. But I'm just saying, don't always be just about business. If from the beginning of the relationship, make sure that you keeping it spicy, you keeping it lit. Like Pastor Brian Winsor, he said, keep the fire. So if you start off with the fire, keep the fire burning throughout the relationship. Don't ever let the fire die down. Don't ever let the fire go dim.
That's right. And and even if your even if your flame is flickering, do your best to keep. Add some wood to it.
Right.
Come on here. When your rheumatoid arthritis start acting up, come on here. And your knees can't bend like they used to, and all of those things, you got to figure out a way to make it work.
That's right.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Because guess what? You ain't always gonna be a PYT. And it ain't always gonna be that way. But I think one thing that is very important is this: is that it's important to establish something that is deep, something that is strong, something that is
build the foundation,
that can last the test of time. Why? Because when it gets to that point, as I said before, when your rheumatoid arthritis start acting up, come on here, and you got to go to bed with Bengay on, or your icy hot, or whatever it is, or you get, or you gotta wear what's them stockings that you put on you gotta come to bed with what those things are. You gotta make sure that your relationship is right. Pastor Brian, can I get an amen? You gotta make sure that your stuff is tight. You know what I'm saying? And that's when it matters.
That's right.
That's when it rubber really meets the road.
He said go to bed with compression socks. Elder Copeland said, I'm weak.
Yeah. But
it's the truth.
That's the truth.
It is the truth.
Because guess what? You ain't getting younger.
Right.
You ain't gonna be able to do it like you used to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're a young thoroughbred now. After a while, you're gonna be an old racehorse.
Right.
You ain't gonna be able to make it around the whole track. And so you got to make sure that your partner's okay with that.
Right.
You got to make sure your partner's okay with that. And how does that happen? That happens, because we built something.
That's right.
We built something that those things, what we have is greater than those things. Is greater than things. So brother Dave said this. He said, I ain't lying.
He ain't lying.
He said he ain't lying. I'll go to bed looking like Darth Vader.
But it happens. But like you said, it depends on, what you have built together.
Right.
And you have to start off with a solid foundation.
Start off
with a solid foundation and continue to build on top of it and build on top of it.
That's right.
And that foundation, once you build that solid foundation, everything will be able to hold and withstand.
That's right. That's right. And and I think being realistic on where you are in your relationship is key.
Right.
If you're 18, 20 years old and you get into a relationship, you young and you that's good. If you're 40, 50 years old, 60 and you get into a relationship, I think you got to be realistic of where you at.
Yeah.
And don't give your partner unrealistic expectations.
That's right.
And so your partner is expecting a certain thing that you can't do. And so I think the what makes the relationship be what it's going to be is that we have realistic expectations.
Right.
Realistic expectations. Mm-hmm. And now we got a solid foundation that we could grow upon. We could build upon this because, and so I'm going to leave it there. Mm-hmm. What Brother Dave says, Dave says that CPAP does not, that CPAP does not stroke the fire. You got to get it going before the bedtime transition. Oh my God. Right. You know, thank y'all. Listen, guys. The time is far spent. We try to get off here at a reasonable time. It's Friday night, and I want everyone to enjoy the night. We thank God for you being with us this evening, spending some time with us. Of course, you know, it's a good time. Right. It's a time for us to talk about relationships, crack up, have some jokes. Mm-hmm. You know, those of you who are reading what's on this timeline, you know, there's a lot going on. You know, but that's what it's about. And if the truth be told, everything that was discussed here are going to be the lives of many of us. Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to be the lives of many of us. And in reality, sometimes reality sucks. Mm-hmm. Can I say, you know? Yeah. I didn't say nothing bad, y'all. I didn't say nothing bad. Reality, you know, it really does. Mm-hmm. But I think one key is that we have to be truthful with ourselves. Right. You know, and sometimes we like to feed ourselves lies, mm-hmm. make believe, right. You know, and all that kind of stuff. But reality, it is what it is. And when we come into that place where we start to accept that, mm-hmm. you know, then we can move on. Right. Then we can move on. And the most important thing about, and I think I say this every relationship talk that we have, every live that we have, the most important thing is that we keep the relationship tight. That's why we do this, because with some of the topics that we may discuss on here, somebody may never ever put that question out, but somebody else might put the question out, and they may be going through exactly what it is you're going through, and what your answers and what our responses as we come together for relationship talk, it helps somebody else. So this is why we do it, why we do what we do. We do this so that we can keep the relationship tight. We're all working for the common goal, the success of our relationships. Let's make sure that we keep God first in our relationships, and let's make sure that we communicate. And when we communicate, make sure that you're communicating in love. Somebody once told me, you know, in a marriage, you should never go, you know, to bed angry, you know, because tomorrow's not promised to anybody. So make sure you make it right before you go to sleep. Gotta make sure it's right. Right. Gotta make sure it's right, you know. And so, and you know, the thing is, not only you gotta sometimes forgive that person, but sometimes you gotta forgive yourself. Sometimes you just gotta say, you know what? Time for me to let it go. Right. You know, it doesn't make sense to go through relationship or go through life bruised. Right. You know, it's time to be healed. It's time to walk in wholeness. It's time to walk in everything that God so desired of you. You know, and so that's what it's about. Just as we grow our relationships, naturally, our spiritual relationships need to grow just alike. You know. So work on building your spiritual relationship. Yes. Work on your relationship with God. You know, if there was some things that was going on, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. There's something greater ahead. Yes. You know, and that's what we know. God bless you all. We thank you all for being a part of this relationship talk. Just us, everyone that is on here, because of you, this is all possible. That's right. All right. I'm Pastor James Sam. This is Lady Sam. Join us this Sunday. Join us this Sunday, 1418 Aversboro Road in the city of Garner, North Carolina, Suite 204, 2:15 p.m. for the Word of God as it's going to go forth. If you can't make it into the building, of course, we all abide by CDC guidelines. Yes. You know, you got to wear your mask and give some space. But if you can't make it into the building, catch us virtually, you know, on our virtual platforms, our social media platforms. All right. Don't forget Thursday night, 7:30 Bible study. We are virtual. You know, be in the number. God bless you all. It's time to let you go.
Have a great weekend. We love you guys. Love one another. God bless.